Welcome back to another episode of the Bad Influence Podcast. I'm Jordan Banderas, and before we begin, don't forget to hit that follow, subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my episodes. On today's episode, I want to talk about a trend that I started to notice a few years ago, and now it's actually more and more common. I keep seeing the same thing happening more and more often. I'm talking about the fact that a lot of older folks are actually having to go back to work. Retirees are actually having to go back to work to be able to afford food and afford certain basic needs. And here's the thing about that. A lot of these jobs that they're taking, they're transitional jobs where typically the demographic that will take care of those jobs were either younger people like in their 20s, 30s, or even teenagers, because these jobs are fast food restaurants, retail stores, and even warehouses. I have seen it. And the problem is that because all of this older generation is going back to work, for one, they're going to be tired. They're going to be in pain. They're going to be slow. So it's actually slowing down businesses a lot. I hear people complain that their orders are not being fulfilled correctly because in the kitchen, like for fast food restaurants, in the kitchen, there's older people that never worked at those type of jobs, or they were teenagers when they worked those jobs back in their youth. So a lot of changes have happened. And the thing about this is that teenagers are not going to actually take care of those jobs, because a lot of the teenagers right now are actually more focused on becoming a viral sensation. They want to become the next YouTube star, TikTok star, Facebook star. So a lot of those teens that will be able to take care of the jobs that the older folks are working on right now, they don't even look at those jobs at all. They're like, that's beyond me. I'm never going to work that job, because they're making money making videos. So now we have to do something about this. And one of the things that I want to kind of like scare you with is that this can actually happen to you, because the reason why these people are actually going back to work is because they either didn't have a retirement at all. They didn't think about retirement. They thought the government was actually going to the government was actually going to take care of them with Social Security, but Social Security doesn't pay enough. Some of them, they thought that the financial decisions that they were making with their retirements were okay, but now with the way that the economy is, it turns out that it wasn't. So when they get their retirement checks, and I saw this some of my previous jobs, like the mortgage servicer, banks, UPS, and even warehouses, like I said, where people said to me, like older people were all like, every time I see my retirement check or my Social Security check, I get mad, because I work for so long, and for Social Security I only get like $1,200. For retirement, for like pension or 401k, I only get $800, which is not enough when you have to buy prescriptions, pay your mortgage, pay bills, doctor's bills, all of that. Like, it's not enough. If you think that's enough, it's like, no, it's not enough, let me tell you. But why is this happening now, though? Well, for one, the economy. Obviously, when everything goes up and Social Security and retirement can't keep up, people are going to have to supplement their retirement one way or another. And they're going to have to go back to work, deal with the Karens, deal with the Chads, literally deal with people that are annoyed by them. But if restaurants and all these places don't hire older folks, they won't have anybody at this point. Because like I said, teens don't want to work those jobs, especially when they're paying only $10 to $15 an hour. I mean, who wants to work for that right now? Pizza Hut is hiring for $10 an hour. It's like, that's not enough. that's not enough. So only someone that is really desperate will take that job, and a lot of older folks on that demographic, they're desperate. They're really, really desperate. And here's the thing, another thing that I actually found recently is that a lot of older women, like grandmas, are actually turning into OnlyFans to supplement their social security. I came across this profile on Instagram the other day. I was just doom scrolling, and this older lady popped up on my reels. She was wearing a very provocative swimsuit, and I was like, wow, she looks older. She looked nice. She looked good. I'm not gonna lie, like, she had a good body, but she was way older. There's nothing wrong with that. So I went into her profile because the on the video she's like, if you want to see more, go to my OnlyFans. I was like, there's no way she has an OnlyFans. So I go into her profile, and yes, she has an OnlyFans, and she has her age stay on her little bio, and it says 72. Not born on 1972, but that was her age, 72. And some of her videos and some of her pictures, you can tell that she does porn. And also, you can tell because of the backgrounds that she uses and everything, that she's not rich, that she's not living the good life like a lot of the younger people that are doing OnlyFans. You can tell that she wants to literally survive because she just started doing this recently. Like, if you scroll down to her profile, you can see where before she was all like nice, dressed up, like typically 72-year-old, just doing her things, taking selfies and everything. And all of a sudden, she goes to OnlyFans and she's starting to make a little bit of money. In my opinion, based on her pictures, based on the pictures of her house and things like that, she's doing it to supplement her social security. I'm not joking. And that makes me think now that within the next few years, we're going to see a lot of grandmas literally getting into porn because it pays them. There's a demographic that likes that kind of porn that and is willing to pay grandmas and older people to enough literally to do this. So you at one point are gonna be able to see your grandma getting it on with someone younger, probably around your age, and probably they're gonna be shaking their butts and everything, and people are gonna complain about that. But it's like, hey, sometimes they have to supplement their social security one way or another, and this is the only way that they can actually do it. Because if you rely on the government or even on your social security, well, yeah, that's the government, but on your 401k or anything like that, if you don't make the necessary changes when they need to happen, if you don't keep up with that, you don't have a good retirement by the time that you retire. And because of that, I want to tell you this. As a society, I know that this is not taught in schools unless you take the courses or you're trying to become like a businessman or a financial guru or anything like that, but we need to learn about financial literacy. I started learning about that a few years ago, and I have been able to actually do good with my investments because I have learned about that. I learned in my 30s, so I still have time to make enough money to retire comfortably. Because today, there's been studies that show that in today's economy, if you retired in your 67 and you want to live, let's say, until 80 or 90, that's what the data shows. You will have to have at least $5 million in your retirement. $5 million. That's a lot. That's just enough to pay your to live by with $100,000 per year, something like that. That's what they mentioned. But still, that's just to scrape by. If you want to live comfortably, you need more than that. So starting right now, based on the stories that I'm telling you, and if you start paying attention on these restaurants and fast food restaurants and all these places, and you start seeing older folks working, you need to be scared for yourself, because if you're not prepared, you're gonna end up there. And if you start seeing all of these OnlyFans accounts and shit like that with grandmas and grandpas, you need to be prepared of that too. You need to be scared, because that can be your grandparents. That can be your parents, actually. So be scared. And if after listening to this, you're like, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to retire comfortably. I don't want to go back to work on my 70s. I don't want to look at my retirement checks when I'm 70 and be like, shit, I can't afford to live. I'm going to have to go to porn, You don't want to do that. Well, here's the thing. This is the moment where you need to learn how to invest. It doesn't matter how old you are. You just need to start. You need to follow somebody on social media, read the books, read whatever, hire a financial manager or anything like that. But just start working on that. Because if you don't, you're not going to retire comfortably. And you're going to end up working at these transitional jobs with someone that is going to be your boss and probably is going to be half your age, if that. Probably he can be your grandparent, your great grandkid, or something like that, and it's going to be dumber than you. And nobody wants to work with someone like that, right? So right now, what you can do, because there's no limit at all the information that is out there. There's so much information on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook about how to actually make investments that are good for you. There's good people out there. There's Dave Ramsey, there's Ramit Sethi, there's all these people that you can search for, and obviously do your own research, and you can hire your own financial manager. And if you decide to do that, just so you know, you have to hire someone that is fiduciary. Because if it's fiduciary, they have a responsibility to look up for your best interest. Don't go with someone that just wants a commission, because they don't give a fuck about you. They only care about them. That's what I have seen. But you can start right now. You don't have to wait until you're older. If you actually start right now in your 20s, you can actually retire very comfortably when you're even 40 or 50 or even 60. And you may be saying right now, like, well, I'm too old. I'm already in my 50s or 60s, though. I'm just gonna ride the wave. Well, here's the thing. When it comes to retirement, you can start whenever. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can start in your 50s, 60s, but obviously everything depends on when you want to retire. And based on when you want to retire, you have to create a strategy. If you start investing, let's say in your 50s and 60s, you're going to have a more aggressive strategy to retire comfortably within the next 5-10 years, whatever. If you're in your 20s, you can have a little bit of an aggressive strategy, progressive strategy, and even conservative strategy. That's pretty much what I have right now, and it has helped me. I'm looking at my money grow, and that's what you want to do. But everything depends on how old you are. It doesn't fucking matter how old you are. You just need to start. And based on that, based on how much time you have left to retire, then you can create that actual strategy. The thing is, just start. Don't let fear take over you and be like, I'm gonna ride the wave. It's too late for me to start. No. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because in the end, you're gonna have to end up working at McDonald's or Wendy's, having all these fast food jobs or even warehouse jobs, and at the end of the day, you're dying in pain. I've seen that. And one of the things that I do want to say, because of the older demographic going back to the workforce, is that we have to be patient with them. Just because they take their time, it's not to piss you off. It's because they actually have to slow down. They cannot go any faster. They're 60, 70, even 80. So you have to be patient and you have to be scared as well, because that can be you. And karma is a bitch. That can be you. And if you don't prepare for retirement, you're going to end up like them. And that's a fact. If you see someone that should be retired working at one of these transitional jobs, you should ask them, how come you're working here? Listen to their story and be scared. We're almost to Halloween. We're closer to Halloween. So use that to be scared. Like, oh my gosh, I don't have any retirement. I need to fucking start right now. Oh my gosh, my retirement strategy sucks. I don't want to end up like this poor lady or this poor guy working 8 hours a day when I'm 60, 70, 80 years old and barely scraping by. You don't want to do that. So be patient with them. Don't rush them, because obviously they're going to get frustrated and sometimes they have to slow down a lot. So just be patient with them. And again, think about your retirement. This is not the time to be wasting on TikTok or anything like that unless you're learning, because imagine having to go back to work when you're that old. And I know that for some reason the school system here doesn't really teach anything about financial literacy again. And it doesn't matter if you don't know anything about it. If I can learn about it, so can you. It's not that hard. You just have to pay attention and do your own research. And pay a lot of attention if you're like me. But other than that, you can do it. And that's pretty much what I wanted to talk on today's episode. Thank you for the growth and the feedback. We are growing so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your messages and everything. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Also on Threads. The links are in the episode's description. And here are my final thoughts. Have a vision for the future, because the future starts at midnight. And have a great day.